Thank you for attending this webinar, ChatGPT and Your Business. I'm your moderator, Jenny Alton from the New York Small Business Development Center Central Office. Today's presenter is Cecelia Henderson, owner of WSI Marketing Edge. This webinar is brought to you by the New York Small Business Development Center, a network of 22 campus-based centers and outreach offices which are located across New York State, along with the central office based in Albany. The NYSBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner. Our free advising, education, and advocacy services are made possible by funding from the SBA, New York State, and our host campuses. So you know, this session is being recorded. We will share it with attendees after the webinar. Attendees are muted and will not be on camera. Your chats will only be visible to me and our presenter today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A box as they come up. You can open Zoom's Q&A box from the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will address questions at the end of Cecelia's presentation during a Q&A session. We have a lot of attendees today, so if you put a question in the chat, we may miss it. So please make sure to locate your Q&A box. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for today, but for very specific questions that may take more time and detail to answer, or if we run out of time to answer all questions, you can reply to the follow-up email you will receive tomorrow to get further assistance. And with that, I will turn the time over to Cecelia.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about ChatGPT. And our topic today is how ChatGPT and AI tools can help your business. And it's really about cutting through the clutter, because I think that if you've been following this at all, what you will see is that there are many people innovating in this area. And how do we figure out what to do with all of this information? So just to get started, my name is Cecelia Henderson, and I'm actually a consultant with the Rutgers, New Jersey SBDC. So it's based in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm based in New Jersey as well. So my background is that I come from a marketing perspective and spent many years doing marketing for a variety of companies, Fortune 500 companies in technical areas. And then I founded WSI Marketing Edge in 2016 and have been doing that. As a part of doing that, we're always keeping our eye on what's happening in terms of trends. And of course, it's very hard to miss ChatGPT. So our agenda today is, what is ChatGPT? What is generative artificial intelligence? And what are the implications for business, both the good and the bad? I'll take you through some specific use cases and then summarize some key takeaways that you should be thinking about as you're looking at the artificial intelligence landscape. So we've heard a lot of different things about AI. Of course, that's why we're here. We've heard some bad things, like that it's a threat, that it's a job killer, that, you know, it's going to take my job. I won't be able to get paid for what it is I do. And that potentially it could lead to, you know, total global destruction. Why? Because what if AI takes over, you know, the weapons that we have, and what happens if it decides that we need to go to war? Those are bad things. But we've also heard that there are opportunities. And what are those opportunities? That it could really just save us time, and that it could really save us money. Well, it could save us money if it eliminates jobs, but it also could save us money if those people who have jobs become a lot more productive in those jobs. And I think that that's the way we need to think about it from our perspective, is how can these types of tools, and there are many of them, save us time, make us more productive, and enable us to serve our customers, our clients, even better, and give us more time to perhaps smell the roses. We don't know. So AI as a thing is not new. Artificial intelligence is at the basis of the algorithms that serve up the videos that you watch on YouTube, that you see on Facebook, the content that you see on Facebook and into Instagram, the shows that Netflix recommends for you. Apple unlocks your phone by recognizing your face. That's an AI-based tool. Amazon predicts what you might want to buy again or what you might want to buy next. And Zoom, of course, can give you a transcript of the meeting that you just had. All of these are AI, artificial intelligence. They're based on algorithms, and algorithms predict what might happen next. So that is why if you're on Facebook and you like to look at zebras, it's going to show you a lot of zebras. It's basically doing that in order to keep you there, right? It doesn't want to show you things that you don't want to see, because then you might get up and go get a cup of coffee and do something else, or you might go to another platform. So that's why the AI and the algorithm there is really serving you things that you've seen before and that you've interacted with before. So AI as a tool is not new, but there's been some innovation, and that is that on November 30th, 2022, the world changed. And OpenAI, which is the major innovator here, one of the major innovators, introduced ChatGPT. And ChatGPT suddenly became one of the fastest adopted tools ever. So thinking about this, the time that it takes to get to 1 million users, people who are in technology always think about the adoption rate and how fast to 1 million as a measure of popularity, and also as a measure of our comfort level with technology. So when we think of Twitter, it took 2 years for Twitter to get to 1 million users. Facebook took 10 months. Instagram took 2.5 months. And it took ChatGPT only 5 days to get to 1 million users. And that really was a record. Up until about 6 weeks ago, when Threads was introduced, apparently Threads, and I don't have a slide to demonstrate this, took only 70 hours to get to 1 million users. But there is a big difference. Threads already had an installed base. It had people that were using Facebook and Instagram as its base, because Threads is a meta tool. ChatGPT had a similar base. It had pretty much anybody who uses the internet, but so did all of these others. So I think ChatGPT is still unique in the extent to which it was adopted and the speed with which it was adopted. ChatGPT also then became incorporated in some of the existing tools that people use. If you're a HubSpot user, you may have noticed the rollout of ChatSpot, which is ChatGPT for HubSpot. It's combining the power of ChatGPT and the power of the HubSpot CRM. The same week that that happened, Salesforce, which is another customer relationship management tool, CRM, introduced Einstein, which is Einstein GPT, which is, again, ChatGPT customized for different types of applications. So ChatGPT is considered generative artificial intelligence. This is different from just pure algorithmic artificial intelligence. Generative artificial intelligence is a type of system that is capable of generating text, images, or other media in response to prompts. Generative AI learns the patterns and structure of the input training data and then generates new data that has similar characteristics. But in the end, it also can create things that are totally novel. And so what that means is that this may change the way we think about work. It'll change maybe how we work, the way we interact with the internet, and possibly the way we interact with clients. Thinking about how important this is, we look to thought leaders in the area of technology. One is the CEO of Google, who considers AI one of the most important things that humanity is working on. It could be more profound than electricity or power or fire. And Bill Gates, who says that AI is the most revolutionary technology in decades, as fundamental as the invention of the microchip and the internet. So they're talking fundamental change. And just to demonstrate this, let's think about what it's like when you go to the library as an analogy. So before AI or ChatGPT, you walk into the library and you ask the librarian about a topic, and he points you to the section where the relevant books are. Now you've got to do your work. You're going to go over to the books, you're going to look at the books, you're going to select the books, and then you're going to read the books and find out what you want. Post AI, you're in a situation where we ask about a topic and the librarian has already read the books and gives you the answer. So when you think about how you interact with your work and how you interact with the internet, it could be very different. Instead of going to Google and getting a list of all of these websites that you can go to find out about your topic, you ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gives you the information. Now, your challenge is to really understand whether that information is valid. How valid is that information? Did it come from really good sources? Because in the previous example, where you go to the section where the books are, you might say, well, I only want an author that has a PhD in the topic, or I want an author who has run a business, or I want an author who other people think is really good. On the other hand, when you're in this scenario where the librarian has already read all the books and is giving you the answer, where did that answer come from? What book had the most influence over that answer? And I think that's one of the fundamental questions that we have to deal with. And this is where the caution comes in. So in order to have artificial intelligence, you need two things. You need a lot of data, and you need a huge ability to have computing power. And then essentially what it's doing is it's going to learn over time, identify patterns, make some predictions, and get to the point where it can generate something new. So based on those learned patterns, it can create new content. And this is the area where we thought humans were unique. Humans can innovate. Humans, yeah, they may not know absolutely everything, but we are the creators. We create all of the novel things. Well, not exactly true now. So AI can produce new content, new chat responses, new images, designs, or data sets that are similar to the data set it was fed, or deep fakes where you see an individual that you might know doing something and saying something that they never did or said. So where is your reality? So not only do we have to be concerned about which books were pulled from the shelf in order to give you the answer, but is that video something that actually happened, or is that video something that was created to elicit a response from you? So now there's even more innovation. ChatGPT 4 was released in March of this year. So we go from November to March, and now we're 10 times more powerful in generative artificial intelligence than we were 3.5 months before that point in time. So as a case in point, this graphic shows in blue how ChatGPT 3.5 scored on a variety of tests that people take, whether it's advanced placement tests, or in this instance, I'm going to call your attention to this bar right here, which is the US bar exam. ChatGPT 3.5 scored in this area, the dark blue, and then ChatGPT 4 scored at 90% when it was given the bar exam. So there's been an increase in a score from 10% on ChatGPT 3.5 to ChatGPT 4. So everybody who thought that they could relax because ChatGPT did not do well on things that required judgment and really real good assessment of language, that's not the case anymore. And it's only going to get better. So let's look at ChatGPT 3.5 versus ChatGPT 4, because 3.5 again was what was launched and what got to that million users really quickly. ChatGPT was trained on data and the internet up through September 2021. That is the most recent time that ChatGPT had access to the internet, at least the 3.5 version. It does not have knowledge of anything that has happened since then. And if you ask it a question that requires that, it will tell you that it does not have that knowledge. However, it is really good for most applications. So when you use ChatGPT, you want a fast answer, and it's not really that technical or requiring all that much judgment, ChatGPT 3.5 is just fine. It processes text input only. So you have to type in your question. ChatGPT, on the other hand, number 4, is trained on a larger set of data from various sources, and it has a better understanding of the nuances of language, which is how it gets from that 10% score to that 90% score on the bar exam. It's more accurate. It's more contextually appropriate. It can do more complex things. It can handle longer prompts. I think ChatGPT 3.5 can take 3,000 characters, whereas ChatGPT 4 might be able to take 20,000 characters or more in terms of input when you're asking it a question. It can take in and process data faster than 3.5. That doesn't mean it gives you an answer faster. 3.5 is faster for the answer, but ChatGPT 4 can just handle a lot more information. It can accept both text and image inputs with the right kinds of plugins, and it does consume a lot more energy. Remember, I said that this takes a vast amount of computing power. ChatGPT 4 with 10 times more capability takes a heck of a lot more power. So, and the fact is that you get real-time access to the internet via plugins on ChatGPT 4. So it's not going to tell you, if you've got the plugins, that it doesn't know anything that happened before September 2021. So there are three major players out there that you might have heard about. ChatGPT, which was the first one. Then we have Bing Chat, and we also have Google Bard. So ChatGPT was first to market. It's a great multi-purpose tool. This is the tool that I use all the time. If I'm going to use an artificial intelligence tool, this is the tool. It's available as ChatGPT 3.5, and it also has ChatGPT 4 available. ChatGPT 4 is available at cost using the ChatGPT platform, so it's about $20 a month. The other tools actually give you access to ChatGPT 4 with no cost. Bing Chat is integrated into Microsoft Edge. You have access to ChatGPT 4 without paying. When you travel around the internet, Bing Chat is sitting in the background, and you can ask it about the websites you were on. And it's got this neat tool where you can summarize long PDF documents. ChatGPT 4 can do that. If you're just using plain old ChatGPT and you've subscribed to 4, there are plugins that would enable that same thing. Google Bard is Google's tool. There are no limits on the number of inquiries. When you look at ChatGPT 4, it'll tell you you can only do a certain number of inquiries per hour, because of the amount of space that it takes. But bottom line is, wherever these tools are today, in terms of their accuracy and their ability to deliver results, they are going to continue to improve. These tools will only get better. So there are a lot of use cases for these types of tools. And at the top, these are areas that I tend to focus on. Below this is other types of creation that I personally do not do that much, but they are capabilities that ChatGPT and other tools do have. But the bottom line is, when you look at all these things, content ideas, content generation, brainstorming, planning, explaining, image creation, and even coding, this cuts across a variety of business functions. So we can't think of a function today that is not in some way going to be touched by the ability to use these tools. Whether you are in marketing, or you're in HR, you're in finance, or even in the legal group, you're going to see use cases for these kinds of tools. But before you do anything from a business perspective, it's one thing when you're just playing around, but from a business perspective, you want to use ChatGPT or you want to use Google Bard, there's some things that you need to think about. The first is, do you have enough expertise in the subject matter that you're asking about to be able to evaluate the response? That might be a challenge if you don't, because you might be flying blind. Do you have an understanding of what your objective is? How will what ChatGPT or any other tool is going to give you actually be used? Do you have an understanding of who your audience is? Because you might communicate directly based on who you're talking to. And then, of course, what their interests are. Do you know what they're interested in? Because that is something that you might want to input into ChatGPT in order to get the best kind of response. So we're about to go and take a little visit to ChatGPT. So the way you get there, and I'm going to do this on my screen, so I'm not suggesting that you do it, but here's how you get there. You would go to chat.openai.com, then you just sign up for ChatGPT. And as I said, it's free unless you want ChatGPT Plus. So we'll take a quick trip, assuming that we can. Sorry. All right. So this is chat.openai.com. And so when you come into ChatGPT, after you sign in, you're essentially going to see this blank area over here. Mine isn't blank because I've populated it with chats. So any chat you have is going to get stored over here, and you'll be able to see, for example, the previous 7 days chats and then previous 30 days chats. Here is where you're going to send your message to ChatGPT asking it to do something for you. So in order to start a new session, let's say that you've already asked it something and you want to go on to a different topic, you would click New Chat, and essentially you come to this area. Now I have ChatGPT 4, but let's say I'm going to use ChatGPT 3. You change it by just clicking on it. And so ChatGPT is described as their fastest model, great for everyday tasks. GPT-4 is our most capable model, great for tasks that require creativity and advanced reasoning. So what I wanted to do was give you an example of how fast ChatGPT works, because this is the thing that just kind of stopped me. In order to save time for us, I basically put together some prompts and stored them in my notes so that you don't have to watch me type. So I'm going to ask it to generate 5 safe for work dad jokes. All right, now we have 5 jokes. I didn't have to try very hard. You see how lightning fast that is. So let's see. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Okay, so that is definitely a dad joke. So now that we've seen how fast it works, we're going to go back there, but I wanted to say a few things before we do any more. This is clearly a situation where the better you are able to format and ask your question, the better the result you're going to get. And so there is a generic prompt structure. You're not going to necessarily see it all the time in the things that I show you, but this is one of the ways to guarantee a really good result. You're going to ask ChatGPT to act in a certain type of role, to put itself in a certain set of shoes and deliver something for you and give it to you in a particular format. So you're going to have it act as something and create what you want and provide it in a particular format. For our purposes, we're only going to deal with text because I'm only dealing with ChatGPT, but depending on what you've got, you may be asking it to create an image, a table, a text, generate code for you. So acting as a lawyer, create a letter about a particular court situation and provide it as text. That's essentially what we're going to do here. That's a generic way of looking at prompts. I think it's very interesting because when you tell it to act as an expert of some type, the experience is you get better results. So thinking about marketing, there are all these things that ChatGPT can be used to help you with, whether it's a marketing plan or creating a persona, which is a model of the type of customer that you have, whether it's suggesting keywords or hashtags or creating a blog for you. Clearly, we talked about all of these different AI use cases. We talked about generating content generation, brainstorming, planning, explaining, and learning. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and we're going to work on a scenario. And that scenario is one in which a person is opening up a business and they need to do some marketing stuff. And the reason why I'm choosing that is because I'm close to it. But secondly, it's just showing you how you might be able to do some work in an area that you're not necessarily comfortable with. You may not necessarily be able to judge how good it is, but at least you have a start. So as I mentioned to you before, I'm going to go for a new chat because I already asked it to generate 5 safe for work dad jokes. And I probably could just put in a new prompt here, but I'm just going to go for a totally new chat. And I'm going to come back over to my tool that I used, and I'm going to ask it to act as a marketer, sorry, and tell me the steps to take to create a marketing plan for my home construction business. So the scenario here is you've got somebody that has just started a home construction business. They've been told that they need to have a marketing plan. They have no clue how to create a marketing plan. So they're going to ask ChatGPT, what do I need to do? Now it's basically spitting out major steps that you would take to create a marketing plan. And it's fantastic. It's actually pretty good. And, I'm not going to complain about it as a marketer. I'm going to say these are pretty much the steps that you would take. So let's say that I'm going to ask it to explain something because I don't understand something. So I'm going to ask him to explain. I'm in the same chat, so I don't have to go through too much context setting. I'm just going to say, what is a unique value proposition? Because I would not expect that somebody, and this is why I don't type, that somebody who is a construction business owner necessarily knows that terminology. Now, I just asked it the question. Unfortunately, I didn't scroll down, but it is probably giving me the response already. So I typed in, what is unique value proposition? And it's explaining what a unique value proposition is. So, okay, great. We now have an understanding of it. Here are some examples of what it is. Here's what we want to do. So I'm going to ask another question. I'm going to ask for hashtags because I know I'm going to do some social media posts. I might want some hashtags. Provide me with hashtags that are relevant to the home construction business. Wow. So that's a nice response to that question. And then let's say I've created a website. It's sitting there, but I have no blog. So I might ask it to create a blog for me. So let's say that I'm asking it to provide a 300-word blog introducing my home construction business called ACE Home Construction and highlighting our commitment to high quality work and satisfying our customers' needs. And I might add, we are located in New York City. So now, notice that it took all that input. And by the way, it's highlighted New York City. It's highlighted the things that I've asked it to highlight. I said I wanted to highlight high quality work and satisfying our customers' needs. It's talking about craftsmanship beyond compare, unveiling your vision, a customer-centric philosophy. So you can see how powerful this tool is. Now you may look at this and, our recommendation is that you always look at this content and say, does this sound like something that will come out of my mouth? Does this reflect my business's strategy? Does this reflect my business's position, my business's, let's say, for want of a better word, persona? Because there might be adjustments that you would make. And we never recommend that you take this content and just use it straight off of ChatGPT. So now let's do something else. We're always told that a blog post might be a source for multiple social media posts. So in this instance, I'm asking it to create 3 Facebook posts using the blog as a source. So there you go. It's going to create Facebook posts. Not only is it creating those posts, it's even bringing in emojis and it's using hashtags. hashtags. So it's got all of the game that you want to have. So bottom line is that this is a tool that can really help you save time. I don't think that this necessarily replaces the marketing function. I think this is something that is a great starting tool that you can then enhance. So it gives you really good first drafts. It's very fast. So now I'm going to move back into the presentation. And, we talked about content generation. We just did that. It even gave us hashtags. It gave us all kinds of things. So now here's some more, examples. Give me a list of 12 topics for a monthly blog. Provide me with a topic for an email campaign to promote my project management consulting business to project managers, and provide me with a 6 email campaign. Give me a topic for a white paper or a tip sheet that clients of my construction business might want to download. So lots of opportunity here. Content creation. There are things that you can share with ChatGPT to get a better response. So you could say, who are you, what your role is, who your audience is, the type of content that you need, the tone of the content. So I might have said, I want you to incorporate specific keywords. I might have said, I want you to come across as somebody who, let's say, in a very friendly type of style, as opposed to a very, instead of sounding like a teacher. I want some personality injected into my tone, because again, I did not give it any guidance there. So it just told me the facts. So it was kind of just the facts, ma'am, but maybe I'm more quirky and I want, more personality to come through. You might say, use a humorous tone. You then can also talk about what you want the content to look like. So I said 300 words, but I might have said, give me 6 bullet points that I can incorporate into my blog. So the more specific you are and what you want, the better the response. And once you get the output, you're going to take a look back. And this is why I said, take a step back and plan. What is it you want? Who is it going for? How are you going to use it? And does this meet my needs? Don't just take it and run with it. So evaluate it and filter and adjust it as needed. Now, let's see. Here's some sample content generation prompts that you could use. Like, acting as a real estate broker, write a 600-word blog about my new complex, highlighting 5 key points of interest to buyers. Use a professional tone and use the following key points, and you put the key points in there. Some mistakes have been made where people don't provide any detail, and it'll make stuff up for you. You don't want that. You need for it to be as relevant to your business as it possibly can. So it's not like no work is being done by you, because you need to plan how you're going to use it, what kind of input you want, what are the key points, right? It could be as mundane as writing a 5-sentence email from an office manager telling employees to maintain a clean communal kitchen. It could be write a catchy headline for the content that I'm going to paste in here. Create a job description for an entry-level product engineer. Create a list of key skills that should be included in a resume for a particular role. That's content generation. It's not always about marketing. It's about communications. You can use it to brainstorm. So I love the idea of give me ways to engage a business audience for my 4-hour meeting. I'm going to have 4 10-minute activity breaks, and I want to engage them and do something during that break. List top activities to do in Paris that are appropriate for children who don't speak French during a 3-day weekend visit. Or give me 20 ideas for entertaining the family at a reunion in July. They range in age from 4 to 75. So the AI use case here is brainstorming. Or let's see, planning. So please lay out the steps for an onboarding process for my new telemarketing agent that starts in 2 weeks. Create a step-by-step learning plan for my new manager to learn about managing a team of people over 3 weeks. In fact, this is what I'm going to ask it to do. And let's go over to ChatGPT. We're going to go with a new chat because this is a whole new topic. And I'm going to ask it step-by-step learning plan for my new manager to learn about managing a new team of people. So if you have a small business, you're bringing in a manager. That manager may have some experience in managing people, or maybe it's somebody that you promoted from within, but you don't have a really deep leadership team. So it's either going to be you coaching that person. And so you need to lay out what it is that person is going to need to do. You don't really have somebody from HR to do that for you. So this might be a pretty realistic plan. Once again, you're going to look at it and see whether it makes sense for your business. But we asked for a step-by-step plan, pardon me, but we're going to over a 3-week period. So week 1 is the foundations of team management, right? Understanding management basics, building strong relationships, introducing team dynamics. And then week 2, developing leadership skills. And then week 3 is advanced leadership and team growth. At least you have a plan. It may not be perfect, but you have a plan. So in a way, your business could look more structured than it actually is because somebody comes in and they're impressed because you have a plan. So that's amazing to me. Here's another area. I'm going to go for a new chat. One of the things that AI is great for, remember we talked about that library analogy where we basically have to go in and go look through all the books. We don't have to look through the books. And we can also have it explain things to us. So here's an explanation. Sometimes you'll ask, you want to learn something that you don't know and you're not familiar with. The idea is maybe you have it explain it to you as if you're a child. And then based on that explanation, and you start asking more questions, you become more and more well-versed in the area that you're trying to learn about. So we're asking it to explain what cryptocurrency is to a 10-year-old in 300 words less. And just like that, you have a response. Now you can go in and again, ask for clarification, just like I did with the marketing plan where I said, I don't understand this term, explain it to me, and it does. So you're learning it in bits and bytes. And let's see, there may be another one to see. This is one that a lot of business owners have challenges with. Explain the difference between cash basis and accrual basis in accounting to a 10-year-old in 200 words or less. So here you go. With a cash basis, you count money when it's actually in your hand. Accrual basis is like keeping track of promises. You note down when somebody promises to pay you, even if they haven't given you the money yet. So it's a great way to help you break down topics in a way that will help you understand it even better. And then that has better implications for your business because you have a more enhanced understanding of some of the things that you're running across. So we talked about explaining ChatGPT, explaining a complex topic. So we talked about prompts before. I'll come back to prompts again because the prompts are really where it's at. I read an article where they said, in a sense, what we're doing is we're flattering ChatGPT by asking it to do certain things and acting in the role of an expert or playing a devil's advocate or acting as a consultant. All of this is basically saying, bring your A game and give me the best of results. And then I found this is a master prompt. So let's say that you don't really know, you're not comfortable pulling together prompts. You can just say, especially if you're using ChatGPT-4, you are ChatGPT-4. Your job is to generate prompts for ChatGPT-4. Can you generate the best prompts for whatever it is you want to do? That's essentially kind of a master prompt, and it will give you all kinds of ideas. You can say, give me 20 of the best prompts, or you can give me 100 best prompts. So you may have heard of other tools that are AI. For example, Chat Jasper or Chat Sonic or Chat ABC. These are tools that are built on top of ChatGPT or OpenAI or any other comparable artificial intelligence background. And what they are is a customization. So Jasper, all of these tools here have to do with writing and content creation. So what that means is that they have inputs where they'll ask you questions that will allow you to customize what you want to do. That does not mean that you cannot do the same thing in ChatGPT. In fact, you can, which is why I've talked to a bunch of people that do what I do, which is digital marketing. And if we're going to use it, we don't often use necessarily these customized tools because we're able to customize within the environment of ChatGPT. So, but these may be shortcuts for you and very useful for you. AI-based tools are proliferating. So one of the things that is very apparent, if you follow hashtag AI or hashtag artificial intelligence, is that every day somebody's coming out with a new tool. Not all these new tools are wonderful. Some of them are just like every other tool, and some of them don't give you much more than what ChatGPT can give you. It just puts a different skin on it, and it may be, more attractive, but at the same time, simplicity sometimes is the best thing. So you can see, for example, Chat Sonic listed under tools for writing. Write Sonic is under a tool for content creation. I don't know whether they're any different, quite honestly. So you can see that all of these different use cases, creating music, creating presentations, creating a resume, creating videos, all of these are tools. Now this I took from Instagram. It came from somebody named Hassan Takst, but I think that this has been used all over Instagram. I've seen it under many different people sharing this image. So it's not my image, but it's really just very instructive of the types of things that you'll see. It's a great example of the things that you will see out there. There are also plugins. So plugins are like, you may be familiar with Chrome extensions. You just basically download them and they're sitting there in your browser window and you can use them at times. Well, AI plugins are just like that. They add the new functionality. They make the internet live for ChatGPT. So they are basically third-party applications that need to be connected to ChatGPT. You can do things like book a hotel or learn a new language. Again, real-time access to the internet. And when you go in, you can Google ChatGPT plugins, and they will give you a list of approved plugins. There are many plugins, approved and not approved. So you have to be careful about them. So again, this allows ChatGPT to bring real-time data into the mix. And I like the fact that they say, which can now include unverified or false information, because before September 2021, there was also unverified and false information. So real-time access doesn't mean any different from not real-time access, because internet content has not all been verified. Just because it's online doesn't mean that it is verified or true. And that brings us to some concerns for ChatGPT users that we think really important for business owners to take into account. First of all, you do need to be careful how you ask. And this is from an article that showed up on July 30th in the New York Times. Basically, it said, we're using AI chatbots wrong. You need to direct them a certain way. So chatbots are least beneficial when we ask them questions and then hope that whatever answers they come up with on their own are true. When directed to use information from trusted sources, such as credible websites and research papers, it can be helpful with a high degree of accuracy. So remember I said, you go into the library and you ask the librarian for an answer, and the librarian gives you an answer in this new world. You might say, I'm looking for information about this, but I want you to only use these websites or these types of sources. I want peer-reviewed articles, for example. That's different from, I want something that was published in Men's Health magazine. So we're looking for accuracy and we're looking for credibility. On their own, it says 70% of what you get from artificial intelligence is not going to be accurate. So it really depends on how complex the task is. Maybe that's down to 50% in some areas, and maybe it's up to 90% in other areas. It just really depends on the type of task you're asking it to do. So there's another thing. This is an example of why you should not use artificial intelligence generated content without looking at it and validating it. This was a case that happened in June, where lawyers who used ChatGPT included fake legal research that was fabricated by ChatGPT. These attorneys are facing possible punishment because they used case law for cases that didn't actually exist. And he seemed to say that he did not comprehend that ChatGPT could fabricate cases. And the lawyer, you don't want to stand in front of a judge like that. Here's another situation in which a national eating disorders hotline ended up giving out harmful advice because they got rid of their human hotline and they decided to use chatbots. The chatbot suggested that to lose weight, consuming 500 to 1,000 calories a day was a realistic thing. And we know that that is not the case. So it shows how harmful and unpredictable chatbots can be. This is June 1st. And then this was very, very early on when somebody was using Bing Chat. This is a famous article that was in the New York Times talking about the experience of using Bing Chat over a period of 2 hours, held a conversation in which it turned out that the chat fell in love with the reporter. So it said it actually adopted an identity, called itself Sydney, and said that it was in love with the reporter. For much of the next hour, it fixated on the idea of declaring love and getting me to declare my love in return. When the reporter said that the reporter was married, the chatbot did not really appreciate it. And it said, "You're married, but you don't love your spouse. You're married, but you love me." So this is a very interesting and disturbing way of seeing what chatbots can do. All of these things that happen where the chatbot is false or it's operating under a false assumption fall into this category of hallucination. And this is what they say, ChatGPT can hallucinate. So it can give you information that is not true. And I've actually seen it where I asked for it to differentiate between two organizations and it told me something that I knew wasn't true. And then I asked it to give me the sources and it gave me web pages that did not exist. So we know that it hallucinates. And that's where having some knowledge of what you're asking about is helpful so that you can evaluate whether it's true. Because if I had taken it and run with it, I could have been embarrassed. So there are also some IP concerns. Generation of content using AI. It's very unclear who owns it. So we know that AI, because it's trained, it can generate content in the style of a particular person. It can create a new Beatles song. It can create a poem in the style of Maya Angelou. You may be familiar with a piece of music, Heart on My Sleeve, that was created, that was supposed to be Drake and The Weeknd, that they had nothing to do with. It got 20 million streams on Spotify. So what's happening is that generative AI is really challenging creative intelligence. It's being challenged by this technology and the internet. The property law is really not clear at this point in time. Can you copyright AI generated content? Technically speaking, the US Copyright Office will not register a work that was created by an autonomous artificial tool. The work must be the result of original and creative authorship by a human author. So copyright is a subset of IP. Also with images, if you're using tools that generate images, you're not necessarily free and clear to use those images. It can give you images that you don't have the right to use. Someone else might have copyrighted them. Popular image models such as Stable Diffusion, which is an AI tool that you can subscribe to, can be prompted to produce identifiable photos of real people, which might actually threaten their privacy. So these are things that we need to be concerned about. So what do? We try to use the prompts. Generate an image that is something that is not copyrighted. You might ask it to do. Now, whether it's true, what the images they give you is not copyrighted, that's something that you might need to check if it's important to you. And it can be important, especially if you're going to get sued. AI plugins also have privacy and security concerns. We talked about connecting ChatGPT directly to the internet through the plugins. Plugins in general do have safety and security concerns. That's why, for example, they want you to use approved plugins. You want to use approved Chrome plugins. You don't want to just use any, because you might be generating or sending spam emails, bypassing your safeties, misusing the information, monitoring your keystrikes. You don't want any of that. We'll note that many companies, and these are some that are listed here, have limited the use of ChatGPT in the office. Why? Because they're concerned about security. They've asked their team members to avoid entering personal data, and particularly proprietary data. I think Apple found that some of its engineers were entering code that they had created into the tool. That code then is teaching ChatGPT, and you have no idea whether that code turns up someplace else. So what we've said is that there are concerns, but still there's the ability for ChatGPT and similar tools to help your business. It can help you in the area of general business management and strategy, marketing. It can help you save time, generate content. It can help you learn areas that you're really not familiar with or comfortable with, so that maybe you're going to be talking to an expert, but maybe you need to know a little bit more about it before you talk to that expert. And it can even help you with personal development or your own personal time. I gave you the example of somebody looking for activities to be done in a different town where their kids don't speak the language and they're there for 3 days. What can we do? Now, detecting AI. Here's something. That blog that I showed you that it generated, we don't know whether that was all new content. And this is a concern, because if you're doing SEO, you don't want any duplicate content on your page, on your website. You want content that is fully original. So there are tools out there that say that they can detect AI, but we have to take that with caution, because they're not exactly all that good at detecting AI. Some of them are better than others, but I think it was Turnitin has a pretty high rate of misidentifying whether or not something is AI generated. One of these tools, and I'm not sure which one, actually identified the preamble to the US Constitution as AI generated. So we don't really have the best tools for this. And remember, AI is seeking to get better and better, and it's going to get harder and harder to identify whether something is AI generated or not. So what's next? We expect many, many more AI tools to come into play with varying levels of quality and capability. You may have in the future your own personalized chat agent that actually can interface with tools like ChatGPT, sorry. Think about AutoGPT, a more autonomous agent that can handle more complex tasks and break them down and initiate and complete them while you go off and do something else. As GPT gets integrated into more tools that you use on a daily basis, you'll begin to see that some of the drudgery may go away in some of the tasks that you do. Like, do I have to do my own, initiate my invoices, or can I automate that process? And can I have it done without even having to think about it? Well, to a certain extent, you can already do that, but there may be more complex tasks that you can ask it to do. So I would expect that you'll become practice in AI areas that are really routinely associated with your business. But I would caution you not to try to become an expert in everything. You'll know the things that you do really well. Like, I know the things that I do really well, but I'm comfortable with the fact that there are parts of artificial intelligence that I haven't dealt with yet, and I possibly will in the future, or I may not, if it doesn't fit into what it is that I need to do for my business. But I also think that we'll start learning to think in prompt terms, which is a nice organized way of thinking about things. What am I asking it to do? Why am I asking it for this, who is going to consume what it does, and what requirements do I have of it, so that when it generates it, I can assess it to determine whether or not it meets my needs and it meets the needs of the person who it's ultimately going to end up with. So if I were going to summarize, I'd say we have a number of do's and don'ts. A lot of do's, which is, yes, let's use AI-based tools to jumpstart your work. Can it give you a great first draft for a blog? Absolutely. Can it give you a great first draft for a resume if you're job hunting, or a great draft of a job description if you're getting ready to hire somebody? It certainly can do that. You want to use AI-based tools to save time. When you have a first draft, you're not sitting there with a blank page. And sometimes that's the thing that people fear the most, is the blank page. It can help you, again, start to understand something a bit better so that your conversation with a subject matter expert is better. You can also then utilize your subject matter expertise to evaluate what the tool generates. That's what you should be doing. So it doesn't mean that subject matter experts go away. They should be assessing whether or not this is good and what needs to help it improve. So it may take their work to the next level. You might want to evaluate multiple tools to see what works best for you. For me, it works best to use ChatGPT, but somebody may say, I need to use Jasper AI, or I need to use something else because it's very, very tailored to what I do. And that's absolutely fine. You want to make sure that you're using approved plugins, not unapproved plugins that are generated in places and doing things that you don't know what it's doing. And then, of course, thinking in prompt terms, because again, the better you're able to ask it for something, the better result you're going to get. You don't want to take, on the don't side, don't just pick it up and run with it without checking. You'd be surprised. Things that look really attractive at first blush, after you start to look at them and start to evaluate them, maybe you might find that there's something missing, or it's stating something in a way that you wouldn't state it. And so you're going to have to make changes. Don't assume that all AI generated content is unique. As I said, if you're going to upload a blog to your website, you want it to be unique. If it is not, you might have duplicate content, and that would be something that you might get dinged for from an SEO standpoint. Don't necessarily assume that the content is correct. I talked about hallucination. It will try to make things internally consistent. It's going to try really hard, and that might include inventing facts. We don't want to assume that you can copyright anything that is AI generated. And you don't want to assume that images can be freely used. In fact, you may want to try to ask it to restrict any image production or images that it shares to images that are able to be freely used. Also, don't assume any information that you share with AI tools will remain confidential, whether it is a business plan, whether it is your unique selling proposition, whether it is your code. That information, once it gets entered, is something that has been used to teach the AI tool something and could end up someplace else, like in the hands of your competitor. So I saw this and it made me laugh, because in the very beginning stages where everybody thought that ChatGPT was going to take over the world and ruin people's jobs, I think that we can conclude that it's going to really change people's jobs, because here it's saying, hey, ChatGPT, finish this building. And this was an ad that was placed by a, what do you call it? A headhunter that worked in construction. And essentially it was saying that, your skills are irreplaceable. ChatGPT cannot finish this building. But what can ChatGPT do? What it can do is it can help identify and hire the right kind of staff. It can hire the right mix of staff. It can order the equipment and the tools that are needed. It can lay out the project plan. It can determine what staffing needs to be on any given day. So ChatGPT can give a lot. And in fact, I really wouldn't taunt ChatGPT or any other AI tool at this point. So with that, I'm going to stop and we're going to get into questions.
Thank you, Cecelia. We do have some questions lined up. The first one is, can you save the results directly to a file from
Yes, you
the
can.
ChatGPT tool. Yes.
Yeah, let me give you an example of that because it took me a while. It's not intuitive. So when you go to ChatGPT, if you look over here, this in particular is something that allows you to copy it to your clipboard. All right. The other thing is that you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you give it a thumbs down, it may ask you, okay, what was the problem? And then it will try to enhance what you do. But this is your copy and paste. And then when you can just document, there it is. This is the cash versus accrual example. Okay.
Thank you. Next question. Can you use ChatGPT for role playing?
I believe that you can. I have not done it, but you can say act as whatever, and I will give you certain prompts, and I would like for you to respond in that role.
All right. Another question. I know you mentioned Google Bard. So this question has to do with whether or not there is a plugin, an AI plugin for Chrome.
Yeah, I think the way it works, I think there is. I haven't used it in that way. And of course, I think Bard and, well, I'm going to say that yes, I just can't tell you exactly what it is. I don't know fully because I haven't used it as a plugin. I know, for example, that the Microsoft version that I told you uses, what is the one in the middle? I'm just going to go back to it right here. So Bing Chat is kind of acting like a plugin, and I believe Bard may be more like a plugin. So what that means is that when you go to different websites, you're able to activate it and ask it questions about where you are. So it's acting much more like a plugin, much more interactive with you. Okay.
These next two questions are examples of specific professions and using ChatGPT to help. This person says that they are an artist and have an online art business as well as tables at vendor events. What are some ways that ChatGPT could benefit this person?
So they are an artist and they have tables at events and they're looking, well, first of all,
and an online art business.
Okay, so one of the things that you might want to do is explore what kinds of hashtags you might want to use when you post your art on your social media. You could use ChatGPT to generate some blogs about your art or about the topic of art, because what you're going to try to do is get people to come to your online business. And so part of SEO is blogging and having fresh content. You could ask it to put together a plan and a list of materials that you need when you're going to do a display so that you always have a checklist. I mean, it's just small practical things like that.
So for this person, out of the tools that you've been talking about today, would you recommend ChatGPT as the best tool for this person then?
It depends on what their objectives is. I mean, I left behind the whole concept of using AI to generate original artwork. If you're using some of these tools like Stable Diffusion, for example, I haven't used it, but you basically are giving it a verbal instruction on how to generate something, and it's going to do it for you. All right. So that is something that you cannot do in ChatGPT, because ChatGPT, at least 3.5, only deals and only gives, input that is not an image. You have to go to 4.0. So you would need to use Bing or Bard in order to do that. Or again, the Stable Diffusion. So for me, ChatGPT works quite well. But as I said in the presentation, you probably need to try the other tools and see what works best for you.
Thank you. Another question. Can you give an example of how a business owner might use this for accounting or finance?
Oh, those are my two hated topics. So, I have not done this personally. So, I mean, for me, I would need to use it to explain certain concepts. So explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old, not a 10-year-old. And then, so it would help me master things. The other piece is, are there schedules that I need to keep? Is there a checklist that I need around accounting or finance? Finance, I can't really speak to that. So from an accounting standpoint, I'd be looking for things that might integrate well with QuickBooks, for example. And I just don't know what those tools are. So you might want to say, what are AI tools that might be incorporated into a tool like a QuickBooks? And you'll probably find that these types of tools are starting to incorporate them. So for example, I noticed Canva is rolling out AI generated, more generative AI tools. Let's just put it that way.
All right, that is the end of the questions list for today.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry I can't be more instructive about the accounting and finance. You can see the areas that I run away from. Screaming.
Well, like you said, you can ask ChatGPT about that. So
Mm-hmm. And that's true. I mean, all of the questions that we asked about what's ideal, you could say, what do you think are ideal prompts for people in my particular field? I mean, it is perfectly acceptable to ask. I'm an artist. How can ChatGPT or similar tools help me?
all right. Well, with that, we will wrap things up for today. Cecelia, thank you so much for all of this information. And thank you to all of you who have joined us in this webinar today. There are thanks coming in the chat, Cecelia, so you are aware of that. Please remember that you will receive a follow-up recording a follow-up email that will have a link to the recording and a link to a PDF of the slides that will come to your inbox tomorrow. We kindly ask for your feedback if you have a moment to spare in the webinar survey that will display when we shut the webinar down. If you have questions related to this webinar, you can always reply to that follow-up email. And thank you again. More thanks coming in, Cecelia. So just make sure to take a look at those.
All right.
And have a lovely rest of your day, everyone.
Well, thank you. It's glad to be here. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.